hers, if you've not watched her, she's got tons of videos. But what she's saying with these image and the next one is that the Earth, the sun puts out magnetic waves, and the Earth modifies those waves as they go by. Next one's a better picture for that. Little bitty, all the parallel waves are coming in. As it goes through the Earth's magnetic field, they get disturbed. You can see the magnetic field influencing each one of those lines as it comes through, and that's where those auroral images come from. Now, what does it do to the atmosphere? We don't know. We got no idea. But that was her explanation to us, was that's how it happens. So to monitor the background noise, we started using SDR dongles. Remember the old, they used to be 19 bucks. I don't know what they are now, probably $8,000. So a little $20 dongle. And we just watched noise. We picked a frequency away from our received frequency and just watched overnight. Woke up the next morning, it was 20 dB different. The noise floor was 20 dB lower than when I had seen it before. Whoa, that's 3 S units. S units are how many dB? 6 dB. So when you're looking at your receiver, you're going to see 3 S units of noise difference, which translates to 20 dB of noise. So we're seeing that hop up and down. I saw it hop up and down that first night. Got a hold of a hatch guy in town that has a 9700, and he has one of those fancy meters, S meters on his VHF meter, and he started monitoring that radio. I mean, how many people watch the S meter on their VHF radio? Oh, good. Keep doing it. He has noticed a range from S1 to 10 over S9 of atmospheric noise, which is a 66 dB change. So when that thing goes way up, it raises that noise floor 66 decibels. Anybody here besides Dwayne that has a beam and 8,000 watts going towards your repeater? Anybody here got 66 dB to spare? I mean, is your signal that strong? No. We were chasing that. We said, well, it could be either the repeater. There's two options. The repeater could be bad, okay, or 20 different radios that were on that net, all of a sudden, all at the same time, lost power. I don't see that happening. So it's got to be something between the two. Jorge Duarte is a ham out of Norman, wrote a Python script to use that SDR, and he monitored that noise for us, and we saw that noise just go up and down all over the place. So yes, we were seeing noise, we were seeing it going up and down, and we were correlating it to the AE information. The AE information, if you end up chasing it, auroral electrojet is the big name word, and auroral electrojet is the AE number, and that is the difference between the U and the L. The U is the upper, the L is the lower. So the AE is the one they watch, which is the difference between those two numbers. So if one of them is plus 500 and one of them minus 500, the AE will show up as 1,000 is how that works, how that is documented. So on a normal day, nothing, no AE interference, and we have good operations. Everybody's happy. On those high events days, this is the day that the next one's the day that we had a net problem. You'll see the numbers on the bottom, the AE numbers exceed or probably run into the 2,000 numbers. You'll see a massive change. You'll see a lot of auroral electrojet activity. In our case, the net we had was the blue that you see there. It says interference seen here. That's the blue timing of that. And what we're seeing is that auroral electrojet information precedes atmospheric distribution by 16 to 72 hours. We also see that it's kind of an integration, so that if you got little bitty tiny peak, it doesn't give you much problem. But if you've got something that's, let's say, 501 for a long period of time, that will give you the same problem as something like this, the display that you're seeing now. Nobody understands how that auroral electrojet affects the atmosphere. That's something they're still working on. They didn't until about a year ago. Nobody really knew to look at it, and we're chasing a lot of that front end piece of that. So I'm glad to have you guys report the same problem we do. It doesn't make your nets any better, but off we go. So that's the time frame we're seeing, 16 to 72 hours. Every time we've seen a problem with the repeater, there's always something happening right before it. Again, don't know how to do it, can't fix it. It's not ours, it's the atmosphere. A tighter shot of that area shows those peaks slamming up to 200 in those areas. So whatever it's doing, I liken it to putting a pot of spaghetti on. You put the pot on, you turn on the heat, and it doesn't boil right away. At least not at my house. You got to turn it on and heat it, and then for a given amount of time, that will cook the atmosphere, for lack of a better word. And then when the atmosphere starts boiling, we see these problems. We have seen them more at twilight, at the gray line times, which is your net starts at 7:30. Our net started at 8 o'clock. So we see it more there. What I understood on your nets is that you guys jumped to a UHF, perfectly clear section, finished the net, and then came back down to the VHF, and it was all clear. Everything was good. That timing is the rural electrojet with the solar heating, the normal solar, timed out and put your system back to normal. Everything's good. So if you look at this chart, not going to show you that it just quit at 8 o'clock. It quit hours before, and we don't know when. We don't know how yet that happens. You know, your net's at 7:30. Our net was at 8, and I'm going to guess your repeater doesn't have much traffic before that net. Everybody saves up their talking for the net, and so it could have happened anywhere from probably noon that afternoon up till the 8 o'clock or whenever it killed. Like I said, no results out of any of this stuff at this point, but that's what we're seeing, the same thing. We asked our members to watch it. You know, after with that one net, we watched it. We got lots of reports from you. It's bad today. Thank you. We'll go look at it, and that's where we found the 16 to 72 hour lag between those two events. Your OCAPA event, this was from the 8-4. This was 72 hours. It was a longer event. This was longer before your net, but it's in that 1500 range before your net happened. Now, why does it take? This was on the 4th. I think your net was on the 7th UTC. That was the 3-day time frame. Don't know. You got to find somebody smarter than everybody that's looking at it right now to figure out why that's happening. The second one, this is the 12th. For your next net would have been on the 14th UTC, and it again exploded. Obviously, there's an obvious AE event before both of those two nets. How does that?
Mark?
Yes, sir.
What are the colors on the right?
Oh, you got it. You're a legend reader like me. Good for you. There are I guess 13 now. There are 13 different stations that read this information all across the globe. The color is how many stations have reported. It doesn't mean anything when we're looking back in time because they all finally reported and they're all red, which means 13 of them got there, except for the one little OSU stripe in there, that little orange piece. Means one station was probably no power or offline or broke. So good question. The idea is how many stations are reporting this at this time. If you look at real time right now, you will see one station start to report, and then a second, and then a third, and then a fourth come up. We had proposed, we had a guy, Norman, that does one of the radar stuff. Rick Roten does the radar goodies. He's working on building one of these receivers to put here at this lower latitude, and that maybe the delay we're seeing is that it takes a while to get from Alaska or wherever this stuff is recorded, or Finland, all of those top ring stations. It may be taking time to get from there to here. That's the best guess that we have, is that we're using data, we're measuring data, but we're looking over there, and we need to be looking here. So we're going to try to build a receiver that picks up some at the lower latitudes, and then our goal would be to build this receiver and then put more of them up as we find out we need to. You know, maybe we need to put them in California and North Carolina or something like that, at that same latitude level, to check our problems. But good question, and I don't know. It's a lot of unknown data. I was surprised to see people have been. I mean, this has been. I've got data back to '57. They've been doing this stuff, so somebody's been knowing something happens out there. The summary out of all of this stuff is we still got a lot to learn. If your signal is clear to the repeater, but you're on the edge of the noise floor, so if you're just getting barely through, like those first slides we saw, some days you may need up to 18 dB more. That means you need 3 more S units. What's 18? What's a 4-watt radio going from, or a 1-watt radio going from 0 to 20 more dB? See, that's what, 50 watt? That's a lot of power. Or a better antenna.
Oh, so when you're not using a helically dummy load.
A helically wound dummy load. Oh, I see what you're calling a Bofang antenna? Is that what you're saying?
Any rubber duck.
And that's very true that you do that. That's what we suggest to our people. We made a lot of building projects. A question over here, someone? Or, Steve.
Yeah, this past weekend, I got a wild hair and got on the air trying to get N5J, and the SFI was 363. The A index was 39. The K index was 2. And I thought, boy, I should be hearing people everywhere. And I wasn't hearing jack. So I looked up to see what was going on. There were 5 CMEs that hit us this last weekend. So even though the numbers look like picking berries in your front yard, it was nothing.
Yep. And the more we know about the atmosphere, the less we actually know. I think is the right answer. That's what I've been seeing. Terry?
My hypothesis, and you briefly almost stole my thunder.
Yes.
I think that the aurora is a trigger for the heat in the atmosphere. We know that there's a layer where the temperature actually goes up, and what happens, I think, is the magnetic field causes energetic electrons which are going to move, which generates heat. And the atmosphere is thicker at the equator, thinner at the poles. So the lag in the time it takes a while for that heat that's generated from the flux to generate down to the pole, up to the equator, which could be that built-in time delay. We know that when that atmosphere heats up, Elon Musk loses a lot of satellites because they get thinner and they fall out of the sky, or they have to kick them in to boost them up. So I'm thinking that the aurora event is simply the trigger for atmospheric heating at very high altitudes.
All your vectors are pointing in the same direction. When you try to look at a problem, sometimes it's easy to miss a tertiary event because you're concentrating on something you're looking at what you're looking at.
Yeah, we're missing at least
part.
2 variables.
I have seen this phenomenon happen before on GPS frequencies, where a temperature inversion is thick enough, coupled with ionization, coupled with all kind of radiation events. Inertial navigation systems won't work.
Well, I don't know. It's not called the thermocline. It's called the thermal. I don't.
Inversion.
No, the thermal. The thermal. You know, where the temperature goes up.
Right.
Whatever they call that section of the atmosphere. I noticed right now it is considered hot.
This is supposed to be DE layer. ID low E is where they're saying that this stuff happens.